Fast forward a few years later, she comes back to me and says, I had to declare bankruptcy. And I said, what
Oh,
happened? And it
an
was
app.
that.
Gosh,
It
man.
was, it was that. I mean, she lost her money. She lost uh, client money. I mean, it was just, yeah, a horrific situation. And I didn't want to say to her, look, I mean, I told you, but these are the harsh lessons that you can learn if you really don't know your market.
Hey, guess what? It's time. Yes, it's a Thursday, and it's a week later, and we're going to have another episode of A Titan's Tale. This is Chris G here, and I've got a treat for us today. We're going to really learn about what it is to work from home or anywhere for that matter. And I got a friend here all the way from Bali, Indonesia, and his name is Femi Opanaya. I got it. Woohoo! And please help me welcome Femi. Hi, Femi.
Hi there, Chris. Thank you very much for having me.
Oh, this is going to be a fun one. Um, Matter of fact, I don't think I've spoken to people in Australia. I haven't done that before, and I think this is the first time I've ever spoke to somebody in Indonesia. Is that where you're at today?
I'm actually in Bangkok today. I
Okay.
told you that I live a pretty nomadic lifestyle. I love to travel,
Yeah,
but
and we're
uh,
gonna
but I have been based in Bali since March 2020.
we're gonna have a good conversation today about all the places you've been and how that works. Um, so you say you've been doing that since 2020. What other things you've been doing over your life
Uh,
as an
yeah,
entrepreneur?
just to give you an idea. So, I mean, I'll just start with a brief background on who I am and what
Sure.
I've been doing with my life. So, I was born and raised in the UK. My family, or my father and my mother, are originally from Nigeria. And so, when my father qualified as a doctor, it was always his dream to live in the UK because, as legend goes, my grandparents they took his siblings to the UK, but they never took him. And I think he kind of had this maybe a chip on his shoulder, or he was annoyed about it. But he was like, right, when I qualify as a doctor, I'm going to move to the UK. And so that's what he did. So all of his children were born in the UK, myself included, in 1980. So about 2 years after he got there. And like I said, I mean, my father was a doctor. He's retired now. However, I decided to go into law. So I studied law. After that, I went into investment banking. And I spent most of my life in the UK, but I did spend 7 years of my life in Nigeria from the age of 7 to 14. In about 2010, after living this glamorous lifestyle in London, I got sick of the UK and I was like, right, I'm going to move to Asia. So I moved to Asia in 2010, specifically to Hong Kong. I lived there for 7 years. Then I moved back to London for 3 years. And then in 2020, just before the pandemic, I moved to Bali, was there for 4.5 years. And right now I'm in Bangkok.
Wow. So how long you gonna stay in Bangkok? Have you
I have
decided?
no idea. I have no idea. I mean, a friend asked me that. I mean, literally 30 minutes before I came on, and I said I'm not sure. However, it's work dependent. If, for example, so I got an inquiry today, and I have some clients that might be coming in November. So if that goes ahead, then I'm going to head back to Bali, and maybe stay there for a week or two. I don't know, maybe a month, and then do some more traveling.
Sure. I have a few questions. Actually, I was intrigued. You were born in 1980. That's when my youngest brother was born. So I kind of had an idea of your age and what you grew up with. Out of curiosity, your dad, was he the oldest in the family or the youngest in the family?
He was the eldest.
Yeah, they probably didn't have enough money
He,
then to take the kids to.
Well, I don't know. I mean, that's
I
like
don't
I said,
know. Yeah.
that's the legend. But I mean, curiously enough, I understand that my grandma, she used to teach at Cambridge University,
Oh,
and I think that is the reason why there was so much traveling. And like I said, I mean, he just the most of my family, most of my family are doctors. So my father, my sister, uncles, aunties, etc. doctors. And so I bucked the trend and I was like, look, I'm going to become a lawyer because I don't like this medicine stuff.
I hear you. Well, that's going to be my next, it's medical doctors, I assume. So that's, yeah. Well, you mentioned lawyer. I got a question. Is that the United Kingdom law or is that international law? What kind of law do you study?
So in the UK, you go to law school for a year, and you can pick whichever area that you want to specialize in there. So I mean, when I went to law school, I specialized in commercial law. However, there's some people who afterwards they come out and then they can decide if they want to go into criminal or immigration or corporate. So I mean, there's just various different areas that you can decide to specialize in. But the way it really works in the UK, and I'm not really sure about the system in the US, is that it is the firm that you're training with that will tell you, because you spend a year in law school and then you have to train at a law firm for 2 years. So it is that firm that will say, okay, you're going to do 6 months in this department, 6 months in this department, 6 months in this, and then 6 months in this. And then after that, there's a decision by the partners and they say, right, you're going to specialize in this area, or with some firms, you can kind of pick which area you want to be in.
I see.
Yeah.
I don't believe it's that way in the United States, but I don't know anything about law, so I'm going to pass on that for right now. Do you think your knowledge in law has helped you be a better entrepreneur or business owner?
No, not at all.
Okay, fair enough.
No, I mean, I think I'm actually possibly, and actually the answer to that is it probably has. However, it's only I guess it's only with hindsight that we see these things, right? Because
Right.
I mean, I worked for some large law firms, and I worked for some large investment banks. And so I'm sure a lot of the way that I conduct myself has come from that. But actually, the reason why I initially said no is that there's a lot about the corporate life which is very different from being an entrepreneur, right? And
Right.
I almost had to wash away a lot of that thought process as a corporate guy, because as a corporate guy, you get trained in one particular area. Or because I work for many large firms and banks, they're like, right, this is they'll be like, right, this is your area of expertise, and we don't want you to differ from anything. If you have a question, look in the book, right? That's the way that I was trained. Whereas an entrepreneur, you have to be a generalist. You have to know absolutely everything. So you have to be able to build websites. You have to know sales, marketing, lead generation, how to speak to clients, how to evaluate businesses, and all of these things. I wasn't taught that, and so I had to go and figure that out when I decided to become an entrepreneur in 2014.
Awesome. So in 2014, what caused you want to be an entrepreneur? I mean, you mentioned earlier you got tired of the UK, you moved and stuff. But in 2014, is that when, at the same time that you moved, you decided to make the change into getting out of the corporate life into being an entrepreneur, or what was driving that impulse?
Yeah, I mean, looking back, I think, and again, a lot of this is really my speculation, but it may be that I know there was a particular incident. So in 2008, you probably remember that we had a financial crisis in banking. We called it a credit crunch, but then the media dubbed it financial crisis. So back then in 2009, I lost my job at a bulge bracket investment bank, actually a German bank. I'd actually been verbally promised that, because remember earlier I spoke about doing a training, right? So I'd been promised by my manager at the time in this bank, and he was like, we love your work. We want you to stay here, and we're going to train you up. It was, it was almost shocking to me because most people get trained inside a law firm, and I was going to be trained inside an investment bank. So that was kind of like that was the pinnacle, I guess, of my corporate career. And we always, as young people, we always assume you're like, right, my life is just going to go up like that. It's going to go up like that. But actually, it doesn't work like that. Life seems to go like this, and then sometimes it just it drops
Yes,
out.
it does.
But actually, that, unbeknownst to me, that was actually the pinnacle of my corporate life, right? Because he verbally offered me this training contract. And then I think within about 2 or 3 months, I actually lost my job in investment banking. They were just like, well, that's it. We don't know what's going on. And off I was. And I had no idea. Yeah, I had no idea what I was going to do at that point. So I went home and I would spend, I'm applying for all of these jobs. But I actually became very depressed at that point. And suicidal as well. So I was like, right, that's it. I mean, I can't figure out what I'm going to do. And for about 2 weeks, I had it in my mind. I was like, right, because I remember I was living on I think it was the 3rd floor. And I had this very large window close to my computer. And I just had it in my mind. I was like, right, it was a loose thought. I was like, right, at some point, I'm just going to jump out the window, right, and just end it all. Right. And I had that thought in my mind because I felt hopeless. And at the points where I would apply for jobs and I couldn't get anything, I would become so exhausted. So I'm waking up at 8 o'clock, I'm applying for jobs, I'm speaking to recruiters, they're telling me there's nothing in the market. And then by maybe about 2 o'clock, so about 6 hours, I was so exhausted. These thoughts would start to creep in. And what I would do at that point, because I was physically exhausted, I'd actually just climb into bed and I'd fall asleep. And then I would wake up and everything, it didn't feel completely better, but, things looked up a bit. And this went on for 2 weeks. But anyway, to cut the long story short, I was like, right, I can't continue like this because I actually hated the job and I hated corporate life. And I thought in my mind, I was like, it doesn't make any sense for me to commit suicide over a job that I don't like. So I was like, what? I'm just going to get any job. I was like, so the next job that comes along, I'm going to take it. So remember, I told you I was at the pinnacle of my of my corporate path.
Yeah.
This is probably the worst job I could get. I was selling a home insulation. I was selling home insulation. And I was terrible at it. I was absolutely dreadful at it. And I was getting paid about £50 per week, which is probably around about 60 to 65 US dollars per week.
Oh, wow. A week.
At this job. Yeah. I mean, it was really bad. So I mean, I went from here all the way down to here. But in any case, I think that's when the thought came into my mind, right? Along with, well, if I don't like it and I was going to commit suicide, then it can't be good for me. So that was when it first crept into my mind that, look, you need to get out of this environment. And it wasn't until 2014 that I finally plucked up the courage and said, look, I'm out of here. So these are the kind of things that led towards it. But at the time, I had no idea what I wanted to do. So I didn't know anything about business. I didn't do any savings. I didn't know what I was going to do. So I kind of fell into entrepreneurship just for the simple fact that I needed to make money. So if I'd been independently wealthy, maybe I would have traveled the world for the rest of my life and done nothing. But because I had to make money, I was like, right, what am I going to do? So that's how I fell into entrepreneurship, just, making it
Almost
up.
a necessity. Yeah. Necessity. Make it up as you go.
Yeah,
You gotta have some
absolutely.
cash. Well, whatever you call it over there, pounds. You need some money. And so what was your first venture?
My first venture, interestingly enough, was in trading commodities, trying to trade physical commodities. And I know it sounds kind of strange, but I had some friends back in London because I told you I was in Hong Kong, and they were trying to. One of their fathers, I believe he was from, is it Korea? He was from Korea, and his father had been a commodities trader. So he was trying to take over his father's book. And so they just came to me and they're like, hey, you're in Hong Kong. Do you know anyone that might want to buy physical commodities? And so I was like, I don't know anything about commodities, but if there's money in it, then hey, why not?
I'll figure it
Um,
out. Yeah.
and the reason I actually did it is because the there was the possibility, very, very tiny possibility though, as I came to find out, that if I did make money from the commodities, this was commission only, by the way, it would be significant amounts of money. And so it was out of greed that I initially ventured into this business, right? Like I said, I was learning as I went along, and my initial thought was, right, it was just to be greedy. If I can do this and I was like, essentially get rich quick. I was like, damn, if I do this, if we sell these metals, I could make $100,000. Okay, off one deal. Okay, I'm all in. So that's how I first I first ventured into business.
That's all
Very
right.
naive.
But did you make it happen?
No.
Well, but you tried.
I tried and I tried and I tried. And you know what? I actually did. I made some money
Yeah.
from from this business, but it wasn't actually from trading the commodities. It was actually from consulting within the commodity space, which is very strange. I mean, that's also an interesting story, because during this time it took me to Liberia, and that was the consulting aspect of it. But actually trading the commodities, we were never successful.
Sure. Is that what you learned? That another way of making money is not necessarily doing the commodities and do the consulting, or did you learn something else?
Well, I mean, I think I partly stated something I learned, that don't be too greedy, right? I mean, and
Yeah,
there's always
greed to
that,
get you.
yeah, yeah. There's always that famous saying that greed is good, but actually, in my experience, it doesn't always pay, right? I mean, for
Mm,
some people, maybe 1% of people will make money. Maybe they're lucky, or they're in the right place at the right time, or they have the right amount of skill, but greed, it doesn't pay, right? So that was my first lesson. But the other lessons were that I needed to really understand the product or service that I was in, because like I told you, I didn't know anything about metals, precious metals, base metals, etc. I didn't know anything. Now the part that I did make money was that whilst I was in Hong Kong, I met this German fella who's a physical gold dealer. So I would go to his office, and he would sit there and he would tell me about the metals business, so gold and silver, and he would bring out these big gold bars, and he would tell me about them, and it was amazing. I mean, I'd pick up these gold bars and I was be like, wow, so this is
right.
gold, okay, this is silver, and then he would have these like big bricks of silver, and so that was my first foray into it. And then he said to me, he was like, look, Femi, I met these people online in Liberia, and they said that they have gold. But I don't want to go there on my own. I mean, first of all, he's a white guy going to Africa. So I need someone to have my back. So essentially, could you call me a consultant or muscle? so, so, so I was really there to watch his back. And I tell you, I mean, I don't. let's just say that in going to Liberia, I wasn't sure that I was going to make it back.
Wow.
However, again, maybe it was the greed, but I was like, okay, well, I'm getting paid for this, so why the hell not?
I read a book about Warren Buffett called The Buffett Way, and
Mhm.
one of the biggest things that took out of that book was what you just said, is that you need to understand the market or what you're doing. And for example, so Warren won't invest in anything he doesn't understand,
Yeah, yeah,
and
yeah.
that's what you're talking about. Don't get into something you don't understand first.
Yeah, and I mean, I give you that. However, it's still taken me a while, right, to learn that lesson, and I've been learning that lesson over and over again throughout my journey as an entrepreneur. And I think a lot of people, it's kind of like stock trading, right? They always talk about pigs being slaughtered because then everyone wants to get into cryptocurrency or Bitcoin, etc. But they really
Hmm.
don't understand the market. by the time it gets on the news, etc., right, the market has
Yeah,
probably been, it's been
too late.
saturated.
Hmm.
Yeah, it's too late. You've got all of these bankers that have come in. Maybe they've manipulated or they've shifted the market. But yeah, Warren Buffett is right. And that would be my advice to people, that really, if you do want to go into business, go in, make sure it's something that you know, or something that you're willing to spend time understanding. Because I think a lot of people, again, coming back to greed, they hear about something, or their friend is doing something, or someone made money doing something, or they read a book, right? And they see the outcome, but they're not prepared to really understand what it takes to get to the other side. But I think it would be easy if people were just like, okay, well, I know this very well, and I'm really going to drill down to understand it. And that would be that's really the key to being successful. You really need to understand the business, your product, your service. You really need to understand your clients, marketing, lead generation strategies. And those are all of the things that has really taken me some time to get to know. And also another thing is your personality. I think a lot of people, they are not honest about who they are as a person. They can't regulate themselves or regulate their nervous system. And so a lot of these, and without being able to do that, I think it makes it a lot more difficult.
For people who are doing all that stuff themselves, not only is it good to know it and kind of get a way to practice it, is because if you ever, when you grow and you hire out, well, first off, you know that what you like to do and what you don't like to do. The
Yep.
second thing you know is that when somebody's blowing smoke up your rear end,
Yep.
I've overseen some projects, whether it be construction or in manufacturing and so forth, and you're not the best at it, and that's
Mhm.
fine. But you know when somebody's telling you a lie, or
Yep.
they're just trying to take advantage of your not knowing.
Yep.
So it's
Yeah.
important to know basic aspects of everything.
Yep.
Terminology is very important as well. So always, always, always try to research as much as you can and get a feel for what you got to do or what you're paying somebody else to do.
Yeah. Absolutely. And I mean, a one of my ex-girlfriends actually, when I was leaving London, she said to me, "Oh, I really want to be an entrepreneur." And I said to her, "Don't do it." And she was like, "No, no, no, I really want to do it." So I was okay, cool. And then she said, "I really want to get into." I think she started talking about building apps. And then I said, "Okay, before you start that, let me put you in touch with my friend who spent about $120,000 on an app that never came out." So I did. I put them in touch with each other, and I'm sure she got a story. Fast forward a few years later, she comes back to me and says, "I had to declare bankruptcy." And I said,
Oh,
"What happened?" And it
an
was
app?
that.
Gosh,
It
man.
was, it was that. I mean, she lost her money. She lost uh, client money. I mean, it was just, a horrific situation. And I didn't want to say to her, "Look, I mean, I told you, but these are the harsh lessons that you can learn if you really don't know your market."
Certainly. And that's kind of what Titan Tales about is learning from other people's mistakes
Mm,
and take those and avoid them if you can. Um,
yeah.
let's talk about your nomadic lifestyle because you're an entrepreneur now
Yeah.
and you do quite a bit of traveling. Is that
Mm.
easy to do? Go from, well, in this case, country to country with the same business that you have.
Yes. So my businesses are online, and I think part of the reason why I became an entrepreneur is because I love traveling. I don't have a wife, I don't have kids, and those factors make a big difference.
Oh,
Because
well,
I
you
tell
got that
you,
right.
yeah, if I did, this kind of lifestyle would be absolutely impossible. And like I said, everything is online. And I've done it that way deliberately because I don't want to be tied down, certainly not at this particular stage if I didn't have to be. And prior to the pandemic, when I would tell people what I was doing, they always found it weird. So I would say, okay, they say, all right, you're at home, but what are you doing? I say, look, I'm working. And they say, yeah, but what are you doing? And I say, well, I'm doing ABC. And they're like, yeah, but you're at home. What are you doing? And then the pandemic comes around and everyone is working from home. But everyone that I know, like I said, everyone in my family are predominantly doctors, and my friends are predominantly in finance, right? And so their mindset is very different, right? As a doctor, you have to go to the hospital, you have to go to the surgery, you have to go to the clinic, and then you are working, right? You can't work from home as a doctor, right? And then the finance people, they're all working for these major corporations and banks and financial institutions. In order
Mm-hmm.
for them to be working, they have to be in an office, they have to be in front of their laptop, they have to be working. So when I used to say these things, they I guess they just didn't believe me, right? And the I guess the beauty of being able to work online is that I can take my laptop and I can, I can go from country to country. I can go from city to city, different places. Sometimes I go to co-working spaces, but I think it is really that I'm comfortable being on my own, working for myself. Some people would find my lifestyle maybe lonely, right? Because I said I don't have a wife and kids, I don't have a relationship. Um, and some people actually need that, right? They need that, all right, this is I live over here. I live in London. This is my street, right? And then everything really revolves around that. This is my office. I go
Mm-hmm.
here, I come back. I go here, I come back, right? People need that stability. Whereas mentally, I don't need that. And I think that's what makes it easier for me. And for me, my KPIs, my metrics are, how well is my business doing? I have lists, for example. Okay, these are the things that I need to do every day to make sure that I'm productive, because there's no one overseeing my work. There's no one saying to me, okay, do this now. All right, you've done this. Now go and do this part, right? Okay, you go from here and you go here. These are all systems that I had to create for myself, because I tell you, it's easy for me to just sit around and do nothing, right? But if you don't create, and I guess the whole thing is you need some kind of system in place for the whole thing to work. Otherwise, it just falls apart.
Speaking of systems, do you have a team?
I
And do
do,
you
yeah,
and obviously I'm assuming they're, I would say, virtual, not with you. They're in other countries, I guess, or in the same, just maybe same location, just different places. They're not with you physically, is my point.
yeah. That's right. That's right. So everything is remote. Now, of course, sometimes we do come together and we'll work on things. Sometimes I work with freelancers to make things happen as well. But what I do is I have a team. So for Wonderlux, I have a team, and there are three of us working on Wonderlux. But then we'll also work with some freelancers, and then the same thing with Fortune as well. So three of us as the core team, and then we'll have some freelancers that work around us.
Awesome. Now, Wonderlux is one of your businesses, and 14 is the other. The 14, that's the, am I saying that right? 14?
Fortune. So
Fortune. I'm
Fortune,
sorry.
Fortune
Fortune,
with a
but
V.
Fortune with a V.
Yeah,
Gotcha.
yeah.
I don't have my glasses on. I don't like doing recordings with my glasses on, but I got
Uh,
other notes here. That's your consulting type business. Is that correct?
That's right. So there's six core areas that we work on with Fortune. So it is email marketing, lead generation, SEO, website audit and optimization, content marketing strategy. So basically, the components of a business to make sure that it grows, right? So the way I like to think of it is that let's say a lawyer in the UK, for example, he opens a solo practice, because that's the term that lawyers use. So he's the only one. He has to. I mean, first of all, he can't His business cannot be online, right? He has to have a physical space that he rents, right? He has to hire maybe a practice manager. He has to hire an admin, etc. Maybe he'll have a couple of other lawyers under him, so he has to manage all of that. He has to he has to buy basic things for the office, etc. Right? He wants to concentrate on being a lawyer, right? He wants to be able to go to court. All right, I've got this this client who is in the magistrate's court. I need to go there. I need to see him. I need to do all of the lawyering things, right? And then it's basically our job to make sure that he is getting a sufficient amount of clients coming through the door by doing all of the digital type of activities. So he doesn't want to learn about websites. He doesn't want to learn about LinkedIn optimization and strategy and how he should be posting content and how he should, how he should manage his online reputation. All of those kinds of things he doesn't want to have to deal with. So I'll give you a quick example. A friend of mine, he runs an investment management firm, and he manages, he manages a couple $1 million for his clients, and he's just started. So he came to me and he said, what kinds of things can you help me out with respect to Fortune? So I came up with an audit and a strategy for him. So have you ever heard of Robert F. Smith?
I have not.
Okay, so he's American actually. He's a financier, and he has a very successful fund in the U.S. Right? I believe it's called Vista. That is his vehicle.
Okay, I know the Vista.
Yeah, but in any case. Yeah, the reason that I mentioned him is that both of them are in the investment management space. So what I said to him is that, look, you should be modeling yourself on Robert F. Smith. So Robert F. Smith, he has a YouTube channel, for example, right? He has his own personal website. He has his own LinkedIn profile, right? And so he isn't just Robert Smith, the corporate entity. He also has this personal brand that he is building. Now, if you were to go to Robert Smith's YouTube channel, his views are terrible. Right?
I hear you.
Now, you would think that this guy, who is a billionaire, should be going viral with every video that he puts out, right? But he doesn't, right? He on his videos, he will get something like 500 views, 100 views, 1,000 views, right? Now, I mean, I'm exaggerating slightly when I say his views are terrible, right? But I just contrast that with someone who is saying to you,
relatively speaking, yeah.
Yeah, well, I just contrast that with these guys who will come out and say, get 5 million subscribers on Instagram in 5 months. I can help you with that. But they don't have any money. Whereas you got this guy who is a bona fide billionaire and he's got 500 views. No one watches his videos. He should have hundreds of millions of subscribers. But I heard this saying a while ago, right? That the majority of people in this world, they want to be famous and pay their bills. Right? They just want to be famous and pay their bills. And I heard that and I was like, wow, really? And I think that is the case. Most people just want to be famous. They want people to know them. They want the clout. They want to look the part and just be able to pay their bills, right? And this is why you get a lot of celebrities who are famous and then in a couple of years they've gone bankrupt, right? Because really what most people want is fame. They don't want money. But in any case, that's what I was trying to tell him. That's how you should model it. Because rather than getting the virality and getting all of these people that are clicking and commenting and liking, etc., you only need a narrow amount of people to watch your content, and those guys are the ones that are going to seriously give you money. Right. And I think that's a lesson that most people should learn. a lot of people on Instagram with hundreds of thousands of subscribers, they're not making any money. I have a friend. I have a friend. I think he's got something like 20. He's got about 20 followers on Instagram, and he's like, oh man, I hate the platform, but he has money.
Well, 20 followers giving you so much money a month. That's okay too.
No. But I'm saying that he doesn't make money on Instagram. He has
He has other money. Yes. Okay.
Yeah. I mean, he's a software developer.
Sure.
But you don't see him on Instagram. There are tons of people who they don't have the virality. They don't have this internet fame, but they're making a lot of money. So I would just say to people, don't focus on virality. Focus on your core audience that will patronize you for the product or service that you provide.
And that's what I actually meant, is that if you have a social media following, it doesn't have to be huge. People need to know, like, and trust you. That's kind of what we use sometimes. But if they know, like, and trust you, and you provide a good product or good service and have a good reputation, that smaller group is better than a huge group of non-buyers versus a smaller group of either potential or current customers. It's much better to have a smaller, intimate group. So,
but most people just want the fame and just want to be able to pay their bills.
Yeah, no. Before we wrap up, we got about 5 more minutes here. I had a question about, so when you travel, how do you find your housing? I mean, do you know before you move, or do you live in, I assume you don't live in a hotel for 7 years or 3 years or whatever. How's that work?
Yeah, so basically it depends how long I'm going to stay in a particular place. So take Bali, for example, right? The reason I stayed in Bali so long was because of the pandemic, right? So the pandemic came along, I mean, I could have gone back to the UK, but in my mind, now I was torn, right? Because on the one hand, I was like, okay, look, if the world is coming to an end, do I really want to go back to the UK and die over there? So I was like, no, I'm going to stay in Bali. If I'm going to die, I might as well die here. Then on the other hand, I was like, you know what? I'm 44. I've heard the world coming to an end so many times, and it never did. So it's unlikely to happen this time. But typically, what I will do is I'll go on Airbnb and I'll book a place for, say, a month. And then depending upon how long I stay, I get to know the local people. And then I start asking them, okay, so what are the local websites or do you know anyone, right? Because the reason I do that is the trust factor, right? I don't want a situation because this has happened, right? You go to a place and you say, hey, I want to rent this place. And they say, all right, fine, here's the key. Or maybe they don't give you the key. They might. Right, but they say, hey, pay me a deposit and then come back in a couple of days. And then you go back and you're like, hey, where's
you?
You're like, hey, where's Jeff? And people are like, who's Jeff? So that's how I figure it. Trust me, I've heard stories of it happening to people, and I'm just like, oh, damn. I can't do anything for you.
One last question before we get wrapped up here. Do you have a bucket list of places you want to live or move to, since you have this ability to kind of move your business around?
Yeah, so I mean, I would say that I've been to thus far maybe about 40 countries across the world. So the next place I would love to spend some time, even though I've been there before, is the Philippines. So that's probably where I might head to next. But I don't really have a bucket list like that. I mean, I do have some. I've never been to South America, right? So that's the way it's always in my mind. So in my mind, I want to go to as many countries as possible. Right, because for me, I never look at what people really say about the place. I just want to go and experience it for myself. right? So I don't care if someone says, oh, this place is like this, it's like this. I might listen to an opinion, right? Or I might listen to multiple opinions, but it is really based upon my desire to explore as much as possible. So take the States, for example. I have a lot of family in the States. And so therefore I have been to the States multiple times. It just, now that I've been there, I'm like, okay, I've been to this city, this city, this city. Okay, now I want to go to this city next. Okay, I want to go to this city next. So for example, I spent 3 weeks in Ohio, right?
Yeah.
Midwest. I mean, yeah.
In Cincinnati or anywhere in Ohio?
Oh man,
I like
it escaped
Ohio. I
where
like Ohio in the fall, but not the winter.
by OSU. One of my friends went to OSU.
Oh, I know what you're talking about, but I do
Cleveland.
not know the. Oh,
Cleveland.
Cleveland,
Yeah,
Ohio. There you go.
yeah.
Yeah.
So I was there at Olentangy. Yeah, I was there for 3 weeks. I mean, that was fun. I mean, I was younger. It was college, and I think I just partied for 3 weeks. I mean, that's all I really did.
Well,
But,
you know.
hey, you're talking about 80,000 students. What else am I supposed to
Well,
do?
that's exactly right. In
Yeah,
college
but
and everything.
yeah, but that's for me. That's what I like to do. I just like to go to different countries, different cities, just to say, "Yep, I've experienced this," and other people will say, "Wow, that's great," or "Lucky you," or "I would never do that."
Yeah.
So yeah, I just like the experiences of different places.
Last in. So let's say I'm a listener and I've got my own business and I want to take care of those 6 pillars you were talking about that I don't want to deal with. I want to just do my part of the business. How would I get a hold of Femi and your Vorchin, I guess. Vorchin. I say it right?
Yes, that's right.
Yeah.
That's right.
How would we get hold of you?
Yes, I would say LinkedIn is the best place to get in touch with me. Yeah, if you type in my name, I mean my name is pretty unique anyway, so you'll definitely find me on LinkedIn, and that is my funnel to everything. So
Okay.
I think you might have gathered from this interview that I'm not a fan of Instagram, and I'm not a fan of social media as a whole. But I do spend a lot of time on LinkedIn writing content, a lot of content, and my businesses really everything is on there. If you want to contact me, you can go to LinkedIn and you'll certainly find me.
And if you're a listener and don't have LinkedIn, I strongly recommend signing up for it. It is free and there's a paid option, but it's social media in a way, in the fact that it's a social media group of business owners and entrepreneurs.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
it's very,
and
very, very good platform.
and professionals, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, so it is not like Instagram where it is geared towards people taking their shirt off. So I mean, if you go on Instagram, you
Or
would think that
cats or dogs or horses.
yeah, that everyone has a six pack, everyone drives a Lambo, everyone has a Rolex, and they're happy and they have a beautiful life, right?
No. Well,
Yeah.
as always, you can find Femi and all the other great guests on titanstale.com on our directory of great guests. And if you're looking for me, you can find me on LinkedIn under Chris Gilman, as well as Instagram and Facebook. Sorry, Femi, but the other guys, my VA say I need to be there. So I put myself on there. But, I have a team as well. I kind of let them do their thing. But
Yeah.
I appreciate your time today and thank you very much. Oh, I forgot to ask, what time is it there?
Right now it is 10:45 p.m.
Or to 11 p.m. Well, it's a quarter to 11 a.m. here. So I appreciate you staying up and being a guest today.
Thank you very much. I enjoyed it.
All right. Bye bye.
Bye-bye.